I thought I'd show you how I piece. If you're new, I always, this is my centre, I always baste so my tails are all going in the same direction, and then that way they will all nestle in under each other like that. Just that one, and then that one. What you don't want is two like that with tails there, and then a tail and a tail meeting like that. So always make sure your tails go in the same direction, because it just makes life easier for you when you're sewing them together. I never start at the point. I always start at this end. I don't know why. I don't know if that's correct, but I always check my points are together. And then I just come up through the seam. I've knotted my thread. I go, can you see that? I go through and through, and my first stitch, I always take the thread through a couple of times just to anchor it. And then it's very tiny stitches all the way along, just catching a couple of threads each time of the fabric. If you're using a nice strong thread, I don't use cotton thread because I worry about it breaking. Over my years of sewing, especially sewing bags, I've always had to use a strong polyester thread so it lasts, and I've seen cotton break down too many times. Or if you're a bit heavy-handed and a bit rough, and you're trying to pull a thread through, it can snap because it's cotton, and that's the nature of it. So I always use a polyester thread, normally about an 80 weight, so it's nice and fine and you can't see it really from the front. Obviously, if I was using very dark fabrics, I would be using a darker thread, but I find that a light grey or a light beige colour will lose itself in most fabrics, especially if they're patterned, florals like these. Even this blue, because it's got a lot of white on it, there'll probably only be 2 stitches along that bit of blue, maybe 1 or 2 there, but they really don't, in the grand scheme of things, when you see every stitch you put in and you think, oh my goodness, look at that, I can see that stitch, or I can see that one's not even. Because when we're working, we're literally just looking at this little bit. We're looking at every single stitch, and we will find every little flaw. But when the quilt is all together as a massive whole piece, or even if it isn't a massive quilt, even if it's a bag or a pouch or something like that, when I get to this end, I just tuck that down out of the way. So yeah, when it's made up and it's quilted, the fabric moves. It's got a life of its own. I love quilts when I wash them, that first wash, and they get there's a slight little bit of shrinkage and they crinkle a little bit. With those crinkles, you're never going to see these little stitches. No one else sees it. We know they're there. We know what might not be 100% because we're just looking at every stitch we've put in, but no one else sees that. So don't panic over it. Remember, this is meant to be fun. And what I do on the last stitch, again, I just do a locking stitch, and then I will open up and I will add my next one on. Tails are going that way. And when I do a shape like this, I will do this half, then that half, and then I sew right across the middle because I find it makes the points better. From this one, I will start at the point just so I don't have to cut the thread and tie off, but I make sure my points are even, and I will go through, and I did a locking stitch on that piece, and I will also do a locking stitch on this piece. Wherever there is a join, I do a locking stitch either side, just for that added bit of security, because where the join is, there is always going to be a weak point. If it's going to pull apart, if someone's being rough with it, if you've got children dragging it around and building forts out of it, the joins will be the weak point. So that will be the piece that is going to give way first. So for me, just to make me feel better, added security, I do a locking stitch either side of every join. Even if I'm sewing in a straight line, when I put the other half of this together, when I get here, I'll do, because it's a big join and there's 6 points meeting, I will do 2 locking stitches at the end, and the other side of that join I will do 2 locking stitches, just so I know that that point where 6 points meet is doubly secure. That's just me. I don't know if everyone does it like that, but you just find your way, you know, when you do English paper piecing. I just think in any sewing really, everyone has their way of doing things. You know, there's when I make bags, there's ways that I like to make my handles, and it could be completely different to how someone else makes their handles, but it's just what suits me. It's what I enjoy doing. It's how I like the look of the handle. And yeah, that's, everyone has to find their way. For many years, because I've got an autoimmune, I have problems with my joints. So I couldn't hand sew for very long before, because my hands would claw and lock, and I just couldn't get on with it. I could probably sew, this would probably be my limit. And then my hands would freeze and lock and go like an old claw, and I'd have to stop. But I have done a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, and what do they call it? Muscle memory. It's like muscle memory now. My fingers know what they're doing, and they've obviously got more agile the more I've exercised them doing it. And I can sit and sew. I normally hand piece in the evenings for a good 3 hours, and I don't have any muscle ache on my hands at all. I don't think I could do it all day, but I have to leave some time in the day for machine sewing. I couldn't hand piece everything, because I wouldn't live long enough to get it all done. So there we go. Right, I'm at the end. Because it's the end one, I will put 1 extra locking stitch in so the thread doesn't come undone before it's all sewn together. And that is 1/2 done. Points meet nicely. I will do the same there, and then I will sew this one. Make sure they're around the right way. I will sew this one together, and then I will fold it over and sew that together. And I will do 2 locking stitches that side of the join and 2 locking stitches that side of the join, just so I know it's doubly secure. But that's how I pick. Can you see the stitches? If you really look, can that focus? You can see them. But someone looking at a quilt from there, they're not going to see them. So don't get hung up on whether your stitches are even, whether they are too big, too small, have you used the right colour thread. Look, no one will notice, especially when the whole piece is together and it's quilted. It's got a little bit of movement in it where you may have washed it, it may have crinkled slightly. No one is going to see these stitches. So just enjoy the process and don't get too hung up on whether it's perfect or not, because none of us are perfect, and we just want to enjoy our hobby. Okay, I hope that's helped some of you. I will see you on another video soon. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.